You guys better appreciate what I do for you. Actually, no. Let's just try. That is the kind of setup that goes into each one of these videos. Setting up the right lights, trying to make sure it looks alright. On camera this probably looks shit, but anyway. I'm going to watch Justice League. I've only seen a few films from this universe. I saw the first 3, then there's this huge gap, then I saw Birds of Prey. I've heard Shazam and Aquaman are good. I've not heard Justice League is good, so let's give this a go. And so you can sync the mic, editing Tom. Start now. So, I just watched Justice League. That was a lie. I watched it 2 nights ago. I was going to do a video about it the next day, but I didn't end up getting around to filming it. But I'm here now, and we're going to talk about Justice League 2017, directed by Zack Snyder and Joss Whedon. Got a new mic as well. This sounds quite good, doesn't it? Sounds pretty good. That's the crispest you've ever heard my voice. Hopefully this can make making videos a bit easier, because now I can just do it audio. And it sounds a million times better than when it was on my phone. So I knew that Justice League wasn't a great film going in, and I thought, oh, it could be fun to do a video, because I saw it was on Netflix, and I thought, oh, it's trendy at the minute because the Snyder Cut's coming out, and I could just do a video on it. I thought at the start, wait, this is being paced like the original Avengers, because you've got the scene where they find out an alien invasion is coming. First of all, then the title, but and then there's a few scenes of just showing everyone almost in their own solo movie being like plucked out of them to join this bigger story. But then it doesn't really go like that. It almost doesn't feel like a film. It feels like half a film. It feels like occasionally there's something you'll see there and you're like, that's okay, that works fine, and those bits are only kind of okay. So there's a few bits that are kind of funny, there's a few bits that are kind of dramatic or kind of touching. There's one legitimately good scene with Aquaman and the lasso of truth. That's quite funny, but other than that, it's just kind of boring. It's just nothing. It's like a nothing film. You can't even really get angry about it, because it's just, you see it and you're like, that was something that can pass as a film. There's just nothing to it, like, at all. I can tell, like, the cast are really trying with it. Like, Gal Gadot's really good, but, she's always really good as Wonder Woman, and Ben Affleck, bless him, when I think there's a good Batman there, he just needs to get it out, like, in a solo film, and that was going to happen, and, now it's not. Which, it's a shame, really, because I think he's okay. It's just, like, the characterization doesn't completely work. Flash. Now, here's the weird thing about Flash in this film. Ezra Miller's okay. It's written in such a way that it's like they're really forcing him to be your favourite character, where it's supposed to be like quirky and kind of awkward, but it's like a faux awkwardness. It doesn't really sound right. Like the line, my second favourite chair. Like, I don't know what it is. It doesn't sound like authentically kind of awkward and quirky. It sounds like someone trying to be awkward and quirky, and it doesn't really work. They were really banking on you being his favourite character, because I looked at the old trailers after seeing it. All those trailers have the scene where he first meets Batman, and it's just like, it's really banking on it, you finding this funny. So they were really like, oh, this is going to be the big comedy beat of the film. He's going to be the like breakout character of this movie. And I know that even more because looking back, the Flash movie, which is supposed to happen in 2022, that film for a while was retitled Flashpoint. And if you don't know what Flashpoint is, that's it's one of the only like comics, like DC comics outside of Batman I've read. And it was like a crossover event, and it was basically this story that was supposed to reboot DC continuity, I think, into something called the New 52. History's been changed, and the Flash is trapped in this like new version of the DC universe, like where everything's shit, basically. So since he's a huge part of that story, despite it being a crossover, that means they really were banking on Justice League being a huge hit because of the Flash, and that they could do this huge film as his solo movie that has everyone in it and sort of rewrites continuity. And so he's written to be your favourite character. It doesn't really work. None of them really end up becoming your favourite character. The closest is Wonder Woman, and that's just because Gal Gadot's really good in it. The idea of Flash like being the center of this universe, I don't know if they really were going to go down that direction, but given that Flashpoint was going to get made, it might have been, and it doesn't really work. You just don't find him particularly engaging. I'm struggling to find things to talk about because there's just nothing there. Like, I can see why I didn't see it originally, because I remember liking the trailers. I thought the trailers were quite cool, but they're promoting a different movie. Like, you watch them, like, especially with the music chosen. I think the first one was like the White Stripes, then there's a cover of Come Together, cover of Heroes. What I was expecting was something, I don't know how to explain it. Like, is Peaky Blinders the right way to describe it? But sort of almost this kind of rock aesthetic to it. But that's not the tone of the movie. It's so slow. There's almost no tone to it. It's just blank. And there's one scene with Aquaman walking in slow motion to this kind of rock track. But it's so short, and there's nothing like that again. And it's the only thing like those trailers. Oh, my back. My back, I'm so bored by how nothing Justice League is. What else was there? What the hell even happens in it? I can't remember. I like the colour palette. It looks really nice in HD. For some reason, visually, it doesn't look like it should match the tone of certain scenes. Especially like the conversation scenes. It looks way too kind of bright, and maybe I'm just used to DCEU films with that like widescreen aspect ratio. But it's a bit weird. It doesn't feel complete in some ways. It feels like a rough approximation of a film that they can still market as a film that was put out after, obviously, the tragedy that happened with Zack Snyder. And honestly, it makes perfect sense why he would leave. Like, you know why he left. His daughter had died, so obviously it's going to have a huge toll on him. Like, you cannot blame him for having to leave this project for those reasons. So, I know why the film's nothing, but it's still nothing. Like, there's just nothing to it. Also, I watched it on Netflix. The version on Netflix just kind of ends, and it's not even a cool shot. It's Superman flying up in a very awkwardly placed shot, just flying up into the air, and then it cuts to credits. And then I realised afterwards, wait, isn't that supposed to be like a race scene with Flash and Superman? And there is, it's just not in the Netflix version. So there's 3 different cuts of Justice League. Release the non-Netflix cut. That's a hashtag, apparently. It's also edited really weirdly in like conversation scenes. There's so many bits where it's like, that shot looks like it ended a bit too soon or a bit earlier than it should have done. There's scenes where you can hear a character talk, and that's clearly been ADR'd in afterwards, and since there's no cutaway of them talking. I feel like you could probably reshuffle some of these scenes and it would probably work a little better, but yeah, I mean, I saw it. I don't know if I'm glad I saw it. Will the Snyder Cut be any good? I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to get HBO Max, just in the hopes that this 4-hour epic will be a slightly better film. I mean, I don't know much of what's in it. I know Darkseid's in it. Apparently Green Lantern's in it, according to Kevin Smith. It's interesting if you just want to see what a film can look like that was a mess behind the scenes, because there's films that I really like that were like a mess behind the scenes, like Rise of Skywalker. I quite like. I know there was like a lot that happened behind the scenes. I know that obviously Carrie Fisher died and the directors were changed, and it was edited quite a lot from the looks of it. It looks kind of choppy in places, but it's a film I like. I really enjoyed it. And I even liked the first Hobbit movie, and those were a complete mess behind the scenes. Probably a bigger mess than Justice League, because they had to change how many films there were going to be. Actually, Justice League was supposed to be 2 films and even a trilogy at one point, and that obviously didn't happen. Just having a terrible like production doesn't mean that a film will have to be terrible, but in this case it is. So I guess it's interesting for that, but otherwise there's just nothing to it. It's not worth getting angry about. It's not really worth crying about, but I know that some people enjoy it. Some people were like, "No, this is fun," and yeah. I mean, it's a lighter tone. It's probably an easier film to watch than BVS. It's something to watch in the background at a party or something with like the sound off, because There's nothing there at all. Hope you're happy. What other terrible movies do you want me to watch? Don't suggest any. Yeah, that's the that was Justice League, and I saw it. Why don't you request some lines for me to read, like in the comments below, like speeches, some memes, some quotes, you know, that sort of thing. This is filler.